What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. 400 Legend time again, but not your average 400 Legend. This is Black Talon 400 Legend Day. As in this Black Talon, the old school stuff, the cool stuff. So now some of you might be saying there's no way there's actual 400 Legend Black Talon out there, and truthfully, if you're a hand loader, there is. This box right here is 200 grain SXT or Black Talon projectiles loaded for 10mm from the factory from way back in the day. So when you pull one of these projectiles out of a 10mm or a 40 caliber for that matter, you can load it into the 400 Legend because we are dealing with a .400 projectile. Now, all the way on the right, we have a normal 400 Legend with a 215 grain power point. So you'll notice that the Black Talon sitting next to it is a little bit shorter. That's because it's a handgun bullet. It was never designed for these purposes, but we're going to do it anyway. What's even more interesting is when you look at it next to the 10mm. We don't have a 40 to show you right now, but the 10mm is drastic enough. We're talking about basically double the case capacity, at least visually, when we look at it. So therefore, we can put a whole bunch more powder behind that 10mm projectile that's actually now the 400 Legend. Now, we've run these type of experiments multiple times. We have multiple videos, and I say types as in plural because it's actually two experiments wrapped into one. First of all, we're putting handgun bullets into 400 Legend. That's always interesting. And we're putting Black Talons into things that they weren't intended to go as far as velocity wise and rating. It's usually very interesting when these Black Talons go faster than they're supposed to. When they're loaded from the factory, they're actually not super impressive. They're very pretty projectiles, and we will demonstrate that today with the 10mm. It's not a bad projectile. It's just not a super smoking, like 10mm people expect to be super hot. This isn't, but it will get the job done. However, when you put the velocity behind it, like with 400 Legend or 444 Marlin, 500 Bushwhacker, things like that, like we've done, you can get these things to just explode upon impact sometimes. Very impressive. So we will run it through the Springfield Armory XDM Elite 3.8-inch 10mm so that we can give you a comparison to a handgun. And this holds its own with velocities, even though it has a 3.8-inch barrel. It does very well. I chose this one for a red dot so I can put it where I need to in the gel. And that's because when we hit it with this 400 Legend, I want to have a good spot to hit it with. It's going to be pretty impressive. I want you guys to see a good view of it. Hopefully we can get a reading on the Garmin. Hopefully we can double up on the Caldwell for basically impact velocities. The sun's a little funny and this thing is sun sensitive, so we'll see. We're going to be sending these rounds through 10% clear ballistics gel blocks. We have two of them lined up, 20 inches apiece for a total of 40 inches. I definitely don't think it's going to go through 40 inches a block, but we always have a backup. It probably won't make it out of the first block due to the detonation tendencies of these things when they get going really fast, but we'll have to see what happens. We did recently test the Black Talon out of the Ruger LC carbine in 10mm. That is a 16-inch barrel, and in that test, we use a 5-inch Delta Elite 10mm. So we have that test up. I don't remember the exact depth that we got with that, but now we'll have the 3.8-inch to compare also, along with the 400 Legend catastrophe that's about to happen. Testing explained, let's get to shooting. Just to show you these projectiles real quick before we send them down range, these are unique looking. They are SXT projectiles. Some people say that that means same exact thing, but the SXT was a thing. I'll show you right here in the box. That was a thing before they changed out of Black Talon. The thing is that this got a little unpopular with the news and everything. People said that it was shredding surgeons' fingers. There's a whole bunch of stuff about it being too deadly, armor piercing, all that other stuff. And no, YouTube, we are not using armor piercing ammunition. I just got this video in trouble. But anyway, you'll notice that it's a distinctive black color. And that was one of the things that made this stuff so magically deadly and all that other spooky stuff that they just had to get rid of it. So eventually they did get rid of the black color. They kept the projectile and they kept it in multiple loadings, 44 Magnum, and all the way 10mm, 40, 9mm, all that stuff. You can still find it today. You can find it in muzzle loader bullets even. It's just not black anymore because black is scary. You will see though, when this stuff opens up, it will be nasty. It will be cool, at least in the handgun bullet. And speaking of handguns, let's let her rip. Hopefully we can get some chronograph readings and hopefully we get a good hit on this gel. Exactly where I wanted to be. Awesome. We did not get a reading here, but we got a reading of 906 basically on impact from the Caldwell. Let's go take a look. And that's very light out of the hands, by the way. It's not a really hot 10mm. A lot of people would think that something like that would be super hot. Not at all. .906. I like that hit, and definitely looks good in gel. It's clean looking. It's not anything wild. It's nothing severe. It's nothing super, but it's also not puny. I mean, that thing goes into that block pretty darn deep, It has a bounce back and it has opened up. We can definitely tell that. It's not the best gel block to see through, but I think you guys get a good enough picture. Let me get the tape out real quick. All right, we have a bounce back from, I would say, at least 17.25 inches, and we landed back down at 15.5 to 16 inches. Now, the thing about bounce back is sometimes you don't see all the bounce back. There's a lot more depth than you would normally see. We might see that on the slow motion, so we'll take a look at that. But going back, we just have a very even wound track, and then it gets a little bit more excited towards the beginning. You definitely see disruption. I mean, I would not want to be impacted by that, but definitely you see disruption, but it doesn't stay disruptive. It kind of slows down. We're only going 900 some feet per second. It has a little bit of a cavity of air around it. Let's look from the top. From the top, we always have a glare of sun, but you can see a little better look at the wound channel there. Again, nothing to laugh at, but just not super impressive, especially with some of the modern things we see today. They've done a lot better job with some of the loadings that they come up with, especially if you want to push them a little harder than 900 feet per second. Now, we do have a heavy pill that's 200 grains, so that's no joke, and it did drive pretty deep. So not knocking on this stuff, but it's definitely not anything super magical or super, I mean, like crazy stuff. You know, like they tried to make this come off the market because it was so deadly, but we've seen much nastier stuff. I mean, the whole argument's just silly anyway, like more deadly, come on. All right, here we go. Black Talon, 400 legend time. I have to hold over pretty weird because of my hunting scope setup I have on here, but let's see how we do, and hopefully we got the recipe right. That was a perfect hit, and that absolutely smashed that block. I hope we still have a camera downrange. That is, I can tell from right here, that is just an awesome picture. We have 2,004 feet per second down there. We have 2,013 feet per second, 213.1 exactly on that one. That is awesome. That's going to be some crazy foot-pounds right there. But wow, I see a total star effect in the gel block. I can't wait to go take a look. I actually think I see lead or copper jacket hanging out of the side. All right, 2004, very impressive. 2013.1, 400 Legend Rifle, totally awesome. Black Talon, totally awesome. Entrance Wound, totally awesome. And holy kaboom, look at that stuff. That is totally awesome. I know this is all totally awesome, but I'm a kid. But seriously, look at that. That thing just completely grenaded itself. There's a big old chunk of lead left forward. It didn't get very far. We'll get the tape on it here in a second, but look how those petals just absolutely widened out. That is a perfect effect, though. It's very symmetrical in a way. All right, now before you guys get too serious, I know we only have 7.5 inches of penetration here. It's a bounce back from about 8.5. So we're not talking about super home defense rounds or big bad hunting rounds or anything like that. We are just having fun. But look at that holy moly grenading effect. That's about a 3.5 inch, at least I would say, wide effect in that gel where it just goes up, down, left, and right. And as you can see, this thing lost pieces of its jacket and lead core everywhere. I don't know why it's so blurry right there. I'll try to get a little bit of a better picture. There we go. But you can see the charring effect has happened inside there. I mean, that's just nasty. But then it does have a chunk of itself that keeps going. It, of course, puts the brakes on pretty hard and heavy fast because, I mean, it just has no piercing surface left. It's totally mangled. Let's look from the top. All right, so I might be wrong there. It doesn't actually look like there's a whole lot left in the forward part. We'll try to dig it out. I don't know what we'll get, but you can see total catastrophe, like we said in the back. Pretty impressive, just not that deep. All right, so it should be pretty self-explanatory, but we have the handgun bullet here and then the rifle bullet here. What a difference. There's nothing left. This is pretty much just a flat little disc. I dug out a little piece of copper jacket that was up there with it, but that's all that you saw. The very far forward part, the one that reached all the way to the tip, that was it. That's all that was left. I thought there'd be a bigger piece, but there's not. The handgun bullet did stay intact, and it did what a Black Talon is supposed to do. It came out of the required barrel length, 3.8. Like I said, that gun does pretty well compared to 5 inches. It really does hold its own. You can see how the Black Talon got its name. It's got these very sharp talons on it. Actually, you have to be careful taking these out of the box. You'll cut the crap out of yourself. It is no joke. They are about razor sharp. It has its lead core in there that expanded pretty evenly. It could have gone a little bit farther if you were to drive it a little bit faster out of a longer barrel. These things will stay uniform up until a point. Where that point is, I don't know, but we definitely achieved that point here at 400 Legend. Again, just nothing left of it. Just a little bit of a disc pushing. It was actually sideways. It was no longer even facing forward. You can kind of see the ring right there, which would have been the base of this projectile. Right there, you have that ring. It's still left in there just a little bit, and then you have a little bit of You can see the edge of that copper jacket where it would have been in there somewhere. I'll try to line it up. So something along the lines of that, but totally destroyed now. Let's weigh them up and measure them. I'm going to show you something weird. These things are actually hard to handle because they're so sharp. They will stick in and on your fingers. It's crazy. I have callous, nasty fingers, but yeah, they will just pick up and kind of stick in there. Sometimes they're very sharp. I was getting it to do it over and over again. Anyway, enough screwing around. We have 199.0, so close enough to 200 grains in my book. But boy, are we lacking out of that rifle round. 62.9. If we add the little piece of jacket that was actually still with that core, we have 66.3. So that thing lost a ton of itself. We expanded out with the copper pedal part, the Talon part, to 0.77 inches. And if we just try to focus in on the lead core, we're at 0.6. I don't know if it really matters for much, but the widest part of this disc is 0.69. And maybe it would be cool to measure its thinness now at 0.107. Well, there you go. Black Talon out of a 400 Legend. Like I said, we've done this out of plenty of cartridges, plenty of calibers, things we're not supposed to actually put it through, but we do anyway, just to see what will happen. This is another example. I don't know what you would use this for. Of course, groundhogs, things like that comes to mind. This actually just becomes a varmint round at this point. Probably a pretty darn good one. I'm not saying you couldn't use it for self-defense, that's for sure out of a 400 Legend. Just make sure it's going to be reliable feeding if you choose to do something like this. No matter what, there's the information. Use it as you see fit. Leave a comment below. Let us know what you think about this test. Black Talon, 400 Legend, whatever. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned for more cool stuff like this. And until we see you at those future videos, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting.